Hey folks, Jimmy here, aka Palette of the Dead. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to a new issue of Mortal Realms magazine. Now, as per usual with all these videos, if you like them, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and of course drop a comment down below. I love hearing back from you guys. It goes a massive way to help the channel too. And without further ado, let's crack on with it. So this week we are on issue 70 of Mortal Realms magazine. That means we have 10 issues left in the age of Sigmar, and you know, we've got a great model, and we still got some great models to come as well from magazine. So we have Lady Olinda coming up, Neve Black Talon, we have the Mortis engine at some point as well, should be coming, and a Lord Celestant, so some really good stuff. But this week we get Kurdoss Valetian, who is a fantastic model as well. He's a really cool one, the Craven King, and a lieutenant to Lady Olinda herself. Really nice model. So yeah, we've got some really good stuff though. So without further ado, let's jump into the magazine. So Kurdoss Valetian, the Kraven King. So the Kraven King is amongst the most powerful and feared Knighthorn spirits, second only to Lady Olinda herself. Kurdoss Valetian is a masterful commander and brutal combatant. Champions who dare approach the Kraven King are subject to his bitter wrath and crushed by his vast mace. So, Kurdoss Valetian was a ruthless plotter and schemer who sought more and more power for himself. He slew his brothers in an attempt to gain the throne of his kingdom, only to be struck down by Nagash before he could complete his plan. But death did not diminish Valetian's hunger for supremacy. As a wraith, he sought to rule an entire underworld for himself. Nagash was quite impressed by this and decided to eagerly punish him and the would-be king for his sins in life. So the great necromancer devised a cruel compromise. He imbued Valetian with necromantic energies, transforming him into the Kraven King. However, that power also has its own kind of curse along with it, and that curse is that he would never be a king. He would always be the lieutenant to Lady Olinda and her second in command, essentially. So he's kind of always stuck, never being able to rule like vast swathes of anything, but yeah, works pretty well really for him in a way. So of course Lady Olinda, whose lieutenant is of course Kurdoss as well, and he's never going to be able to overthrow her due to Nagash's curse, and he has had to become a dutiful and useful servant of the Mortarch of Grief, and yeah, she just utilises him how she sees fit, essentially, with that one. Moving on, we have a page about the Forces of Order, which is one of the other elven gods, which is Tyrion. So Tyrion is the elven god of war. Together with his twin brother Teclis, he rules over the realm of Haish. He is brave, dutiful and relentless. So legends claim that Tyrion was once an elven warrior of the world that was, who bound his very soul to the magic of Haish. When the mortal realms were founded, Tyrion awoke as a god, destined to create the Lumineth Realm Lords and to continue his eternal crusade against chaos. So, with Tyrion, he has also had a hand in devising the elves and shaping their races and everything like that. So where Teclis created the Idoneth Deepkin, who are a kind of a twisted and imperfect elf, Teclis also tried to destroy them after realising his mistakes, and it was Tyrion who basically got Teclis to stay his hand and allowed the Idoneth Deepkin to escape beneath the ocean and make their home in the east of the sea and stuff like that as well. There is also two hemispheres essentially of the paradises that is Haish, and half of it is the Tyrionic hemisphere and the other half being the Teclian hemisphere. So the Tyrionic hemisphere includes Ultre, Unoratre, Helon and Ulmnia. I'll probably pronounce all of them completely wrong because Jesus Christ, the Elvish words are ridiculously hard to read sometimes. But yeah, so there are essentially two hemispheres to the lands of Haish. The Lumineth Lords follow two essentially paths. They can go for the mystical and magical path, which is the servants of Teclis, or if they are more warlike and they are more kind of your fighting soldiers, then they are more kind of along the lines of Tyrion's followers. So you have things like Elafor War Sage and Venari Blade Lords are very Tyrionic. And then you also have, of course, the rapid firing Star Shard Ballistas and a lot of the other riders as well, which are pretty cool. Really, really good stuff. It's always nice to see the Lumineth Realm Lords getting a lot of focus in the magazine as well, because they're one of the newer races. So really, really nice. Really good stuff. How to build Kurdoss Valetian is actually pretty easy. When you build it, you can build it in multiple sections. So I have an older version of the model, which, well, say version of the model, is just one that I bought ages ago. So I built it separate. So Kurdoss is separate from the throne itself, and the throne I need to paint on its own, and do it that way around instead, which will make it easier to paint Kurdoss and not get your paint all over the model. So sub-assemblies, very, very welcomed. The magazine approves of sub-assemblies as well, so you can get cracking with that. So very, very good stuff. And it's going to make it so much easier to paint, in all honesty, because if you are going to go for a stone effect on that throne, you're going to want to dry brush it. You're not going to want to cake Kurdoss in loads of grey paints or anything like that. So have fun with it. You know, you can get a really, really nice look from it as well, and you can kind of blend it all together in some very nice ways, which the magazine is kind of detailing how you can do that. Worth having a nose through and then deciding how you're going to paint it, and you can get a very nice look out of it as well, because the throne is not just solid stone, it is ethereal as well. Also, your banner, very, very good way of painting up the banner. So the banner's embossed, so it's actually a 3D kind of mold for the banner, so it'll make a lot of the painting the detail very, very easy, because painting it freehand, not everybody's got that skill. I must admit, I don't have that skill. I'm not very talented when it comes to painting very elaborate designs on very small items, but you can get some really cool ones out of this guy. When it's 3D printed, it's very easy to go over. You just go over it quite lightly. But at the end, the model will look along them lines, depending on what colours you've chosen. Pick your colours wisely and have fun with the model. Don't be shy about it, just have fun with it. It is up to you how you paint your model. By all means, have a good one. That's all I'm going to say with it. We have the War Scroll for Kurdoss as well on here, so he has, of course, got a lot of little bits and pieces. He has some magical presences, so he has Soul Crushing Smite, he can suffer no rival, and he has the rule that if he cannot rule, none shall rule. So in the presence of Kurdoss Valetian's all-consuming bitterness and the cruel malice of these heralds, the commands of enemy generals turn to dust in their mouths, even as they issue them. So at the start of the enemy hero phase, after the opposing player receives their command point for that turn, on roll a dice. On a 5+, subtract 1 from the enemy command point to a minimum of 0, and you receive 1 command point. So to be honest, that sounds very, very confusing. The way it works is quite easy. There are some great tutorials that will explain it far, far better than I can. So I'm not going to attempt to kind of go through it all, because yeah, my way of kind of talking about it, it will not make sense. I find it very difficult to make sense of it in my head sometimes. But a very, very cool one. And of course he's got his companions, which are the heralds as well, which have their own weapons and have their own range and everything like that as well, although they are attached to him. So a pretty cool war scroll for that one, and you know, a bit more of how to utilise him as well and his points. Then we have a war scroll battalion for the cleansing phalanx. So For a cleansing phalanx, it consists of 2 units of provocateurs and 2 units of secretors. Pretty easy, pretty nice to have, and you know, pretty decent amount of units as well. So really good stuff on that one. And then of course we have a battle plan, but it's of course going to bring in the Kraven King, so giving a bit more kind of story, and one of the battles that the Kraven King would have been part of, going into all these different areas. So you also have a good old, what they call White King. That's one. I almost forgot what they were called then. White King picture there as well, which is pretty always really nice. And the White King's pretty cool as well. It's one of the nicest models you can get, which is, you know, saying something really. So with your Stormcast Eternals and your Knighthorns, of course, you're going to be picking out. So for the Knighthorn, you have Kurdoss Valetian. For Craven King, you have 2 choices from the Knighthorn's Heroes list and 4 choices from the Troops list. For the Stormcast Eternals, 4 choices of the Heroes, 4 choices of the Troops, and then all 4 battle mats. Get them out, have fun with them. Really cool battle plan, and yeah, should have you very well on that one. Enjoy it, it's going to be a good one. And then moving on, so next week we have Gryph-hound statues. So this is, I believe, the last piece of scenery that we should be getting from Mortal Realms magazine, and you know, leading up to some awesome issues coming up later on. And then we have Lady Alinda, Mortarch of Grief. A really cool model, probably one of the nicest Nighthorn models ever. Also another one that's very delicate though, so be careful with it. But enjoy painting it, it's really good stuff. Yeah, can't say anything more about it, it's really good. With us heading into the last 10 issues of Mortal Realms magazine, of course, there are a few things that I would like to point out. One, there will be still content on this channel when we hit the end of the magazine, so the intention is to buy Warhammer 40k Imperium magazine as and when that comes out, and there will be content on the new edition of Age of Sigmar as we go, as well as Warhammer news, that type of bits and pieces. There will be more stuff as well that I have planned, including some reviews for some of the video games that are Warhammer related. And if anybody's interested, I may do a few little playthroughs here and there as well, and kind of some faction focus maybe, who knows. But yeah, there are some ideas kind of jumping around, but may come along to the channel. Right, that's enough from me. Thank you very much for watching. I will catch you in the near future. Bye bye now.